In a world where insanity reigns supreme and safety pin manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, it's comforting to know an ancient, fat, long-haired, bearded reprobate has your mind in mind. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California. And despite every attempt by the SHR Media Network to revoke his shameless contract, we return to the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon.
You're listening to Late Night Radio on the SHR Media Network. Caution, there will be mature themes explored and potentially adult language used. If conservatarian words, phrases, certain concepts, or rhetoric offends you, tune out now.
Uh-oh, guess what day it is? Guess what day it is? Huh? Anybody? Julie, hey, guess what day it is? Oh, come on, I know you can hear me. Mike. What day is it, Mike?
Oh, you magnificent bastard, I read your book.
I drink your milkshake.
How dare you?
I call that bold talk for a one-eyed fat man.
Fill your hand, you son of a bitch!
Of course you realize this means war.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same. And if you and I don't do this, then you and I may well spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it once was like in America when men were free.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubblegum.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, I'm back, he's back, he, she, and I, and it, and they are back. And you're in the saloon. It is Tuesday, January 12th, the year of our Lord 2021. This is a great show and a show. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, where I'm broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California. Always spell it with a K, a mere 2 miles east of the locus of evil on the entire left coast of the Bill Mill, the belly of the beast, the Capitol building in downtown Sacramento at 10th and L Streets, where late at night you can hear the death of common sense and its concomitant wail as it wafts from that putrefying edifice. And at the end of the show, when I exit the plush, resplendent, sumptuous, and palatial SHR Media studios, I'll be smelling the odoriferous stench of sulfur, brimstone, and evil emanating from downtown Sacramento. Be forewarned, what you're about to hear for the next 2 hours consists of my opinion and my opinion only, no one else's. And also because of the fear porn that has gripped this nation, the saloon is no longer open. I'm still serving stiff drinks. Facts, history, logic, rationality, proportion, context, tradition, intent, and common sense out the back door. Also, another reminder, you know what's coming. We don't water our drinks just like we don't water our conversation, politics, religion, crime, culture, economics, race, sex, science, law. We talk about it all right here at the saloon, where the speech is free, but the booze still is not. This is 2021. We are at war. I am done with bipartisanship and compromise. This is the new age of modern political warfare. Make no mistake, it is war. It began with a soft coup against President Trump, and now the war is against you. If our Constitution and our Bill of Rights don't prevail, we have absolutely lost this nation, and it won't be coming back. And when we lose this nation, we lose the rest of the planet. Guaranteed. Because if we lose freedom here in the United States of America, where else are we going to find it around the planet? The answer is, we won't. Tonight, let me go to 2 cameras. Do I have 2 cameras? Here we go. Yeah. Okay. Come on. There we go. Live in the studio. First time ever. I have Lonnie Poindexter. And Lonnie Poindexter, I counted. Lonnie Poindexter, I've had you on the show 14 times.
Really?
Yes, I have had you on the show 14 times. One of the most fun times I ever had was when I had you on one phone and Ralph Chittum's on another phone.
Yes.
And then I had a full hour. It might even have been 2 hours. I forget. But I had at least 1 hour packed full of Lonnie Poindexter and Ralph Chittum's talking to each other and to me. I had an assload of fun that time.
You certainly think you're going to get that.
That was
you've got Ralph Chittum's on any platform. he brings out the bad boy in me, and I mean that in the most positive way, because he doesn't hold back, and he's very astute. I tease him a lot because I say, you're the embodiment of what I talk about from my show platform is the intersection between faith and public policy. Because he's an ordained pastor,
right.
And he's credentialed as he majored in political science in college as well, and so he's my go-to guy when I want to get background and things like that. And but if I want somebody to stir the pot, that's who I go get because he has a real unique way of ticking people off in the most positive way.
It's like. Let's see. Hello, Ralph.
But, we're based there in the belly of the beast in Washington, D.C., and as I would tell them often, I said, we're like almost like on the down low there because D.C. is what I call San Francisco West, or East, rather. And, we just go about plying our trade, what we do, and do our best aspects of trying to mimic you, sir. But they're on the East Coast. And we found that there's a lot more folks who think like us than we originally thought, even in that cesspool they call D.C.
Well, okay, let's go back a little bit. Hey,
Sure.
First, before I do that, folks, if you didn't read any of the promos for the show tonight, I'm going to have Lonnie Poindexter. Lonnie Poindexter is actually live in the studio. This is not me calling Lonnie on the phone and with everybody else. I go, and then. Please deposit 25 cents, or you're a conservative, we can't put you through. So Lonnie's actually live in the studio. This is absolutely wonderful.
I'm here at the mountain, brother.
To prove to everyone, like I've said, this isn't somebody's basement. I'm not wearing pajamas. I actually have shorts on. It's not like I'm sitting there in my fuzzy bunny slippers or anything. You actually had to drive to get here. This is a real room. That's an actual bathroom over there. That we won't have for long because we're going to have this house sold and we're going to have to find a place to move and to put SHR. But in the meantime, this is great. You may be the last guest we have live in this studio.
Oh, that'd be an honor there, brother.
We don't know how long it's going to be before we get our butts kicked out, but the notification was given. So I'm in the process of attempting to identify another place to put the studio. It looks like it's looks like it might be in my wife's living room.
You got a loving wife.
After numerous negotiations and contractual updates,
that's going to cost you some honeydew work for sure.
That agreement was reached. So tonight I have Lonnie Poindexter in the saloon. And I also have Michael Jones, who is my constitutional expert, Professor Michael Jones. And he's been on a number of times, not nearly as many as you, but I go to him when I want to find out what's happening in terms of the Constitution. And these days,
right,
because of what I consider to be the true constitutional crisis going on right now, the 25th Amendment, the second impeachment, Rentune. So I've got Mike. So here he is. Let me see if I can get Mike. I told him that I would call. And what I want to see if I can get him. I should have called beforehand.
Frank's Chinese Mexican food restaurant. How can I help you?
Oh, I do have Michael Jones. How fabulous. Okay.
Hello.
Mike, I just want to let you know that have you heard of Lonnie Poindexter?
Yeah.
Okay.
I know the name.
Okay. Anyway, Lonnie is a D.C. denizen who was living in D.C. and now tonight, I don't know why he's in California. I always spell it with a K right now, but he let me know that he was in town. So Lonnie is live here in the studio along with you. So as I'm speaking, Lonnie will be here too to weigh in as well. But particularly considering what's been going on these days, I again wanted you to be on the show so that I could get some actual constitutional expertise going in terms of what the hell is transpiring in D.C. I have no other conclusion than to sum up 2021 as this is clearly, as far as I'm concerned, to be the year of retribution, revenge, and punishment. And all of those things will be aimed at conservatives, at Trump supporters, at anyone who essentially had anything to do with Trump in the past 4 years. Now, having said that, we have, I don't have a calendar in front of me, but let's see, 12. Yeah, we got 8 days left in this term, the final term, first and final term of President Trump. And in 8 days, they're going to push for an impeachment. Now, I discovered, like everybody else did, I'm sure, that Nancy Pelosi said that she's going to demand of Michael Pence, vice president, that he go for a 25th Amendment case against President Trump. Today, he said that he was not going to do that.
Right. Well, the House is sending a recommendation. They had a vote in the House. It passed it. All of this is hey, we want you to do this, please, and thank you. But Pence is not under any obligation to obey.
So,
however, Kamala Harris will when she gets in office.
Which is really interesting because as far as I'm concerned, and Lonnie, you tell me if I'm incorrect, she has not yet resigned her Senate seat.
She recently did, as
did
I
she?
understand.
Okay.
Yeah, she held out for a long time, though, but she finally did, as I remember, because we were kind of watching that.
And the reason I was curious about that, there we go, okay, is because I was thinking, okay, has she not done so because she's reticent in terms of her confidence of the election? And that was a question for me. And so here's the other thing.
Mark, it is when Trump said he's going to go ahead and leave on the 20th and have a peaceful transition. That's the day that Kamala Harris also changed her mind and resigned from the Senate. So, she felt protected that she wasn't going to lose that, vice president job now. So.
Well, and Governor Newsom was all set here to make an appointment, which I'm not sure is lawful, but who the hell cares about the law? It's California. Always spell it with a K. So, Michael Jones, where do I begin? I guess I could limit it tonight to just the 25th Amendment and to the impeachment, but there is actually so much more to it than that. What I want to go back to, and I'm thinking the last time that you were on, if you can recap and or summarize, we had an election. January 5th, 6th went by. The electors were confirmed. It appears to be at this point that on January 20th, there will be no further kerfuffle in terms of, is he really president? Is she really vice president or not? That's over. But last time, and perhaps you could clarify something of this, because I remember it, but I don't remember precisely the circumstances that you mentioned, Michael Jones.
March 3rd.
Is March 3rd. Now,
14th.
tell us the significance, because up until the point that you mentioned that, I had no idea of any kind of significance in terms of the presidential election was March 3rd. How does that factor in?
Well, here's the deal. If Congress couldn't decide on who's president, if it went to Congress for a decision, and it almost did, except for Antifa or whoever,
right?
Invaded the Congress, and it made it look like we did it. So that's my opinion. I don't have any proof on that. I'm sorry. It's just my gut opinion that we don't act like that, and but they do. But it was a mob. Could have been a mob mentality, and they could have done it. But had Congress successfully, Ted Cruz and those guys successfully attacked the multiple delegates of each state and have them change it to the state legislatures delegates that were sent also, then they could be in debate all the way up to March 4th. If they didn't do it, then on March 4th, they have to sit down and vote for president in the Senate, in the House, rather. And in the Senate, they had to vote for the vice president. And that had to stop on the 3rd, because on the 4th, they had to vote one way or the other. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
But only if Congress was dealing with who are we going to elect, which electors are we going to use. Then they had extra time built in for that. And the president and vice president would have stayed in office until this was decided. And but it's all hanky what's going on there. But the March 4th thing is off because they voted the delegates that were for Biden instead of Trump. And so as far as the Electoral College is concerned, their job's done. And now the House and Senate have confirmed the vice president and the president. And so he is now officially president-elect.
That comes down and all will be magically well. So all of you people that have been putting your faith in a Kraken out of anyone's pocket or Linwood or Sidney Powell, that magically all these wrongs will be righted. That's how we got here, folks. So I'm curious.
Yeah, we all had an epiphany.
Yeah. And so there was, in fact, no Deus Ex Machina. So Lonnie Poindexter, I think, you correct me if I'm wrong, I think those people who were working on that solution, if you will, were the people that got us lost in Georgia. That is to say, wasn't it Linwood or another person similar to him, maybe even Sidney Powell, but I believe Linwood, who said something similar to, why should you vote? It's all rigged anyway. And so Republicans in Georgia stayed the hell at home. Thank you for that.
I was shocked by that. I fully expected, because I was working with individuals that were doing what they could from their various platforms to encourage the obvious participation for folks on our side of the aisle. But I was, saddened to see that take place. Also, I was working with a couple of C4s and some other organizations that were looking to get the truth out there, and I was surprised to find that a good portion of the populace down there in those neck of the woods were just completely asleep at the wheel, in particular those who happen to share my collective paint job in supporting Warnock and the other individual. It was saddening to see, but it let me know, you know how, or at least you think you know how bad things are. And then you see.
And then there's a new day.
Yeah. And then individuals who let me just state it this way. With the time I was in D.C., you thought you knew who was friend. And of the many things I can say admirably about POTUS is that, and let me get a little spiritual here, I believe it was used by God to pull the festering, pussy, maggot-filled underbelly of what's really going on in terms of who really was friend or foe. I remember coming to D.C. and having a good, healthy respect for the Bush family.
And then?
And then, yeah. I'm like, I had to repent, and then God rest his soul, depending on where he's resting. If he is resting, Senator McCain, let me just put it out there like that, who was who lived in my building. I was in the cheap seats. He lived on the penthouse level. So I would run across him in the elevators. And to have an opinion of him when I was hosting my show, and then to learn otherwise because of what President Donald Trump was able to shine the light on. You can clearly see who's friend or foe in that city, and it lets us know the tremendous amount of work that we have to do collectively across this nation because, the battles are fought at the local level. I mean, if we get to the national level and talk about fighting things, we've lost, I think, the war, at least the battles.
See, I would completely agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
There was a dude that came in here running for California Assembly District 9, which is South Sacramento, where the wife lives, and then further south, Elk Grove,
Lodi.
Uh-huh. And it's a pretty big area, and it is wide, diverse.
Yes.
And there was a Democrat dude in there by the name of Jim Cooper, who's been entrenched for a while. Well, Eric Regard, and I had him on the show probably 5 times, because he's such a cool dude. But essentially what he did is he gave Jim Cooper a what for. He didn't win, but out of nowhere, and on about 35 cents, he gave Jim Cooper a great run to the point where there was a runoff.
Yes.
Which that ought to be a clue to some of the people in California, always spell it with a K, and around the country. So just when you think that things are insane, and we will get into the insanity in just a moment, it's not all gone, it's not all bad. I think we have to set our sights to 2022, which may be even a larger, I don't know, I'm sure, I don't know whether people in the Democrats in D.C. are saying, oh, we're operating under a mandate. Well, yeah, bullshit alert. I don't see a mandate there. But there may be an actual mandate coming in 2022 when a lot of things come back. But Lonnie Poindexter, I think you're absolutely correct when you said one of the biggest things that was done in terms of a positive overall view of D.C. is Donald Trump pulled the cover off the cesspool and let people see how the sausage is really made.
Amen.
And it's disgusting.
Yep.
Just when you thought that these people were working for you in some kind of a fashion. Okay, all right, Michael Jones. Okay, working for you, air quotes, working for you.
Right, fingers up.
Yeah. Then you discover, and you should have discovered, they're not working for you at all.
Right.
We're going to have to take a break. We're talking to Lonnie Poindexter. He's going to be here for the entire 2 hours of the show. Thank you again, sir, for being here. And I'm also going to be talking to, and I am still continuing to talk to Michael Jones, who I've had on before, constitutional expert. And when we get back, I want to talk about impeachment, because it appears at this point discussing anything with the 25th Amendment, that's done. That's gone. That argument has been shoved down the road. When we come back, I want to talk about impeachment, how this can be done, and there are various points of time that we have to discuss. So I want to talk to Michael Jones about that. And so, Lonnie Poindexter, thank you for being here. We're going to take a break, and we all three will be here right back. Oh, by the way, this is so weird. Maybe it was Lonnie coming here tonight. Folks, remember when I said that YouTube had shot us down? We were like the Zeppelin in New Jersey, where, all of a sudden we exploded and the flames consumed the Zeppelin and it fell crashing to the ground. That was what YouTube has been doing to us tonight. Because of Lonnie, in honor of Lonnie. YouTube let us go back on.
Well, I have juice like that.
Which is one of the weirdest things. So we're on weird. YouTube. We're on Facebook this minute.
Really?
So if you would, folks, go to SHR Media, and you can listen to us on Spreaker. You can listen to us on audio. And you can also watch us on YouTube on the SHR Media page. And then if you, for whatever reason, if you feature and prefer Facebook, you can watch us on Facebook. By the way, thanks to everybody in Facebook. I can't get to the comment section right now on my stupid phone, but I see that there are a bunch of people that are watching on Facebook, so that's really good. We'll be right back with this. And I want to ask about impeachment with Professor Michael Jones right after this. Please, folks, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, are you guys listening? This is Shannon from Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM on SHR Media. I know you've been wondering where we are and what's been going on. Well, folks, that's right. We're back. So please, join us 7 to 9 a.m. Monday through Thursday on SHR Media, on Spreaker, iHeartRadio, and Spotify, and Facebook Live at 11 a.m. on Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM at Facebook. You don't want to miss a minute. We've got lots of guests, lots of segments, and lots of interesting things. And let's face it, there's nowhere for you to go, so you might as well tune in. Again, Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM. We're back live on the air on SHR Media, 7 to 9 a.m. Monday through Thursday, audio and Facebook Live, audio and video. Yes, we are going to do video. Facebook Live, Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM. Hope to see you soon.
Unleashed Jeremy Hansen, the most explosive pro-American podcast on the planet. Pro-MAGA, pro-Trump, pro-conservative. Come join the resistance. Fight for what really matters in America. 5 p.m. Central on UJHLive.com, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Pandora, or MAGAbook.com. Come join the resistance and fight for America. Unleashed Jeremy Hansen.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And we are back. He, she, and it are back. The first half hour is down. I am BZ, the bloviating Zeppelin. You're in the Saloon tonight. In the studio is Lonnie Poindexter. And on the teleolaphone is Michael Jones. Before the break, I said I wanted to try to focus now on the impeachment aspects. The big issue right now to me seems to be, and I've heard so many various opinions on this. A lot of people are saying, no, you can't impeach him. And then a ton of other people in D.C. and various other environs like that are saying, oh, yes, we can. Mm-hmm. So I think the big question for at least the rest of the half hour would be something similar to, can President Trump be impeached within the time span that we are left with? So, in the process of doing that, I went peeking around on the internet. And so this is where I want you to weigh in, and also you, Lonnie, and Mike, you to weigh in, of course. I found an article from a guy named William Murphy. And so the question is, can a president be impeached after leaving office? And this guy wrote, The Constitution allows only 2 penalties as a result of impeachment: removal from office and being banned from holding future federal office. Technically, it's probably the case that Congress could impeach a president who had left office in order to prevent them from holding future office in the federal government. This would not only prevent a one-time president from returning, Trump, to seek another term at a later time, but would also prevent a former president from running for Congress or serving in the cabinet of a future president or as a federal judge or a Supreme Court justice. Oh, my God. Can you feature that? Justice Trump.
That'd be an interesting Supreme Court.
How many brains would explode behind that? But William Murphy said, however, it's hard not to see this as a huge waste of Congress's time. And he continues, if a former president committed wrongdoing, that would justify impeachment even after they left office. Why, they probably have also committed federal crimes that could be more easily prosecuted through the criminal justice system. Stop. Now, I'm going to halt there just for a moment. And I'm going to ask you, Michael Jones, and I'd like to ask you, Lonnie Poindexter. The last I'd heard is that the Eastern District of New York has essentially a retinue of various indictments that they'd like to flop on soon-to-be civilian ex-president Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. And the reason that they were prohibited from doing so, and this is where I ask you now, Michael Jones, constitutionally it's fairly clear, this is a question, is it fairly clear that a sitting president cannot be sued or criminal indictments sought? Is that true or is that false?
Okay, now, when you say criminal, that could be, a small crime, like he stole the Snickers.
Right.
But if he did a felony, then he can be charged in office.
Okay. If
he kills someone with his car, he's out driving drunk and kills someone, then he can be treated that way.
Okay.
But you see, in Congress and the president, they can't be prohibited from going to do their duties. And so normally they are not messed with while they're in office. But when they get out of office, then they're a civilian and they're easier to attack. You're not fighting, Washington, D.C., mm-hmm. and you're not fighting the FBI and, and all the other agencies that the president could use to defend himself. So most people don't try to indict a sitting president. They just move on. Congress impeaches. There are, as that man said, only 2 remedies. One is expulsion, and the other one is banning from future office. And I think the Democrat Party is going crazy about trying to prevent Trump from coming back, because they think that he could probably win 2014 and they'd have to do the whole steal and show thing again. But it's funny because a lot of people I know, this is only at the anecdotal level. I've not done big research on it, but it looks like the steam has been knocked completely out of the movement of cleaning up the government and cleaning up
the cesspool,
town, the cesspool, and reapplying the Constitution to things. So I think that movement, which would have been very dangerous for the Biden administration, because Trump would have been able to snipe at him the entire 4 years from the side, and we would continue to clean up the swamp by what we say and do, and because that's affecting elections. You said earlier that you said, watch out, California. Some of these people, Republican, might start winning seats. Well, partly that's because you guys have raised your taxes so high that everybody's leaving your state and they're coming to my state. And so now Texas may be purple.
we're going to be losing seats. California is going to be losing seats. I don't think it's entirely out of bounds to suggest that New York would be losing seats. I suspect losing seats. That's the future of California. But then also let me ask you, Lonnie Poindexter, as Michael Jones said, if there were major, major felonies, indictments waiting of a critical nature that they haven't gone with it yet, is that due to protocol, do you believe, or the fact that their cases are going to get slammed on him? I think those are coming, but the cases may not be as fabulous as the Eastern District may seem to think.
I think it's probably both. You know, they're looking at which way the wind blows, and to determine what they use in terms of the tools they can to bring as much heat. But the thing that gets me, that they are so rabid about this, I mean, like foaming at the mouth, that I think it spells opportunity for them to step on their you-know-whats as it pertains to...
I don't think they can't not do that.
Exactly. So that's what I'm looking at. I read, and I was mentioning too, I read an article from Senator, I just spaced out on his name that quickly. The black senator who is now in Texas. An article that he wrote, and I'm a big fan of his. Can't remember his name. Not Cruz. You think I'd remember him because he's a black guy, and it's not like there's a lot of them right now.
Oh, a state senator?
Yeah.
Gosh,
he was of Florida, and he's now in Texas.
Well, you're there. Aren't you there in Texas, Mike?
Yeah, I'm Texan. But
yeah.
Okay, come on, answer up. Come on, mister.
I should know everybody. I apologize.
Hey, Colonel Alan West.
Oh, Alan West.
Alan
okay.
West.
Yeah.
Yeah, my memory.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Well, he lives right up here next to me.
Oh, okay.
He's just a few miles away. I forgot he was a senator.
Yes, you know, well, they gerrymandered him in Florida, and that's how he lost the race when he ran for a second term.
Imagine that.
Yeah, you know,
Right.
they do that. But he's much more powerful, I think, in his position now, because he can really fire the cannon, both barrels, as it were. But it's something that he wrote. There's a great article it's in both his social media and also with the Texas GOP, because he's the president of the Texas GOP. And he says that in the article, and I won't read the whole thing, obviously, because it's too long. He said, cool heads always prevail, and he used military parlance and strategies, which is his background.
Right. He was a colonel.
Yeah, and he used that to describe what took place, what the left did, what the right side of the aisle didn't do, and underestimating them, and what the right side of the aisle can do going forward. And he's saying cooler heads prevail. He's got folks running around like their hair is on fire. Oh my God, look what's happened. He says, let's get cool. Let's sit down. Let's strategize the same way they looked at what happened when they got their butts kicked in 2016.
Right.
And let's go to work. And I agree with you that in 2022 is where we start that, because I've learned that the local campaigns, and being in D.C., everything's federal. I was a part of Star Parker's PAC that she had. She had a super PAC. And everybody came to me wanting money. That's how I came to D.C. Originally. She made me an offer I couldn't refuse. She didn't tell me how insidious it would be once I got there. God. But everybody was coming at me for money. And then I said, okay. And so, I was a big man on campus as long as they figured I had money. Once we ran out of money, nobody wanted to talk to me anymore. So what I learned is that whenever I saw candidates at the local level, I'm talking about state office or below, going all the way down to dog catcher, the money didn't flow to those campaigns. But those are the campaigns to get the people in place, like we were talking about now, they get in place, they can push back so that when we roll up to the state level and the federal level, we've got momentum built, and we've got what the left had during this election cycle. And so I saw that up close and personal, and I just got a text back from Reverend Ralph J. Chittims. He's listening in.
Are you listening, Ralph?
He's listening in. And Ralph started a C4 because one day we're sitting and strategizing about this, And he came up with this grand plan, and his beautiful wife chimed in as well and gave the name for the platform that talks about that, where we were looking to steer money toward local campaigns that have our worldview, so that they've prepared and coming through the ranks, and so we're ready to shoot from all the barrels that we have available to us. And I see that in this particular, everybody says, oh, the Senate race, and that's where it's all is. Yeah, it rolls up to that. But everything below that, like in the state of Georgia, the left was winning every campaign, including dog catcher and city council member and school board member and that kind of thing. And that's where we need to fight, in my opinion.
Like George Soros is fighting.
Yes.
With the DAs.
Yes.
The DA, local DA,
Preach, brother.
has an amazing amount of discretion in terms of what will or will not be filed. Since you were talking, Lonnie Poindexter, one of the things that just went off in my brain, all the bells and klaxons, I can make a law enforcement analogy because I did that for 41 years. And that is the axiom in training, which is the first thing cut in a budget crisis, is training, of course, because, hashtag why wouldn't it? At the academy, I used to say that this is the time for those people to shine. And if they can't shine and show the greatest amount of motivation there in the academy, then you've got a little lizard which you're going to grow wrongly, and it will sooner or later become a dragon because the individual that you do not vet properly in the academy is going to be your sergeant, your lieutenant, your chief deputy, your sheriff, your chief, something like that. So if your pool of candidates is corrupt, the point is to vet them and get rid of them at the local level. The local level for law enforcement would be the academy.
Yes.
So what you're saying was correct. If we vet things properly and vote the right people in locally, then by the time they get to D.C., with luck, they'll still have some scruples left. But you made an excellent point, Lonnie Poindexter, when you said by the time they get to D.C., you can't change them.
No, they're and even if you find some that seem to be have the right worldview, by the time they get to D.C., they get assimilated into the Borg. It's the strangest thing you see. You saw it with who was the woman, the young black woman that won office in Utah, and Love, I think was her name.
Okay.
Yeah, that was her last name was Love. Yeah.
Yeah.
She didn't last long.
No, she lasted one term. She got there, and I'm mentioning because I remember our PAC contributed to her campaign, and also William Hurd out of Texas, and they both got to office and got assimilated into the Borg. And before she left her first term, she was throwing rocks at Trump, and we're going, is this to say? Wait a minute. But that's what happens in D.C.
Let me throw this out there, Lonnie Poindexter and Michael Jones, because this is what I've been thinking, but because I've not grown up in this environment, and I don't, that's 3,000 miles away from here, so I'm not facile in that kind of environment.
It's like another planet.
But when you get there, parenthesis John Roberts, and you find yourself going to various cocktail parties, and you're feted by the media, and you're limousined around, and you're treated with deference, and people around you must have their pinky raised as they serve you, etc., and your brown M&Ms in the bowl. Does that environment? You may have the best of intentions, but once you get there, you like to be petted, you like to be stroked, and you like to have somebody make you purr, and then somebody throws some scraps at you, and it's not that crappy, crackly cat food. No, it's wet cat food now.
That's right.
It's the expensive stuff, and you kind of like that. corruptive material.
So even if you have the best, if you're raised right and trained up right with the right values, if you have our collective worldview, you can go there. You're going to be tempted, but you can fight off the temptation. Everybody's tempted. But the individuals who come up through the farm system, and Ralph and I use that term,
perfect.
Baseball, the AAA league, and so by the time you get to the pros, you're ready. They do the same thing on the left. We do a horrible job at that on the right side of the aisle. Horrible job. There's no support. In fact, if you fall out of favor on the left side of the aisle there in D.C., there's a farm system that'll pick you up. So we'll put you back in AAA. You see it. In fact, let me give you a good illustration of D.C. politics.
All right.
And I learned this from Ralph and another gentleman, Reverend Dean Nelson, who I was with him one day, and parking is a big problem in D.C. Cost a fortune to park. If you don't pay your parking meter, they nail you. Those little parking meter lanes are like the Gestapo.
And then boot.
They boot you. They do all of that.
Where'd the boot come from?
There's vehicles that drive around that have cameras on the roof of the vehicle or on the back trunk of the vehicle, and their sole job is to drive around and nail everybody's registration tags to see if they're legal or if they have any tickets.
Sure. LPR cameras, sure.
Right. I hadn't seen that in California, I guess. I didn't.
We've got some, but the money was not there for the funding.
Oh, well, they got them there.
That's a story. Oh, my God.
So we're trying to find a place to park, and Dean says, Lonnie, go with me. I got to go pay the meter again. It's all electronic, your phones and stuff. So he had to go over and get the number because he'd forgotten what it was, where his vehicle was parked. And I said, he walks over. I said, man, where are we? He says, we're over here by look up. So that says DNC headquarters. Yeah. What are you doing parked over here? Because we were at the Capitol Hill Club, which is the right side of the aisle, right? He says, I'm parked over here because their parking rates are cheaper in front of the DNC headquarters than they are in front of the RNC headquarters.
Oh, my God.
I said, you're lying. He said, Lonnie, that's how divided this city is. So I look up, and sure enough, parking's cheaper over in this. So we pull our collars up so somebody can see what we're doing. Then we head back over to the
benefits
RNC.
for the common man over there.
Exactly. And so that's how divided that city is. So when they come to that city, and keep in mind that when your average senator or congressman leaves office, they're multimillionaires, regardless of what station they were at when they came to office.
Sure, exactly, which is a wonderful, wonderful incentive. See, the other thing that it kind of used to be this in law enforcement in the 60s. Not so much now, and certainly not in the 70s or the 80s, but we were known to eat our young. And then mentoring became very important. And getting a fledgling under your wing, showing them the right way. So it sounds as if, at least in terms of the GOP, mentoring can go to hell.
There's mentoring that's there, but they don't have the system that the left side of the aisle has. It's just, it's almost like the rugged individualism that spells the foundation of what we are, as a belief system, ends up being a thing that's kind of a negative force. hey, you can make it on your own. You don't need anybody. But on the left side of it, they take care of each other. They take care of each other.
Okay. This is the first time tonight. This time for this.
All right.
So I do that when somebody makes an incredibly salient and cogent point. Why is it that the Democrats can circle wagons and be infinitely more cohesive than the Republicans have been in the past and appear to be in the future? The GOP, under Bush, for example, hey, we had the triumvirate. Mm-hmm. We had the Oval Office. Mm-hmm. We had the House. We had the Senate. And we did what with it?
Zilch.
Yeah, nothing. It's as if they're afraid. They're afraid to wield power. They got the power. You can do some good things. What happened? And they didn't.
Well, Mark, here's the problem with that is that the swamp didn't know what to do because Republicans hadn't been in charge for 60 years.
Mm-hmm.
So we weren't really trained for that. But they were even more worried that their lives would be destroyed by the Republicans. And the Republicans are the ones that are worrying about it. Because, they had all these comfy things. They got to go to the big clubs like what he was just saying, being over there by DNC and going to the Republican club there. I can't remember his name, but
Capitol Hill Club.
That's it. Mm-hmm. And so they had a really good life, and being in charge could really screw it up because who was running all that? The Democrats, and who is in the staff on everything. And if you go to the Republican clubs there, and bars and restaurants that are mostly Republican, and it seems like they do have these. Like, the Democrats show up here. They even have it segregated where senators go to certain bars and representatives go to certain bars, but they don't commingle.
That hasn't changed.
Right. And so they didn't know what to do. And eventually we just kind of gave power back because we were bewildered and we didn't want to give up our luscious life of coming in and becoming a millionaire. Back then, that was one of the things, And here's the problem. And as Lonnie said, people go up there and they get bit in the neck and change almost overnight. It's because when they are met by the leadership of the party. And the leadership of the party says, you better go along with what we say to do, or you'll not be on a good committee.
Exactly.
We won't help you if you're funding for your election, and we won't get you hooked up with the right people from K Street, the nobility of lobbyists over there. And so you get frightened. Like, oh my God, I can't make any money and become a millionaire, or I can't come here and do the noble things that I said I was going to do if I'm not part of the team. So you join the team, and it's like 1,000 paper cuts. The Chinese kill you with 1,000 paper cuts. Well, that's like what is happening and on both sides.
Yes.
Up in Congress. You're told, if you don't do this, you get in trouble. So after a while, you're either going to keep getting in trouble and get nowhere, do nothing, get no microphone time, no help, no support, or you can get everything you want just by playing along. And as our human nature is to, not be the squeaky wheel.
Right.
And so that's why these people, convert and they change, but they don't know actually that they've done that because they think, well, I'm part of the team. I'm part of the Republican Party. I'm part of the leadership, and they're the guys that were screaming the swamp. Anyway, but hey, let me ask you a question.
Okay.
Okay. Now, you were talking about, Lonnie brought this up. You're talking about, what was it? The farm teams and, and moving people up in the higher offices, and that the game isn't all federal, central government. It is also about local governments. And Lonnie could not be more right. You rang the bell on it, basically. So, but why? I want to ask you why that was so important. What is the base, the sounding of all this? And I've told you before, we're a constitutionally federated republic.
Right, yes. CFR.
Right. So what is it that Lonnie was saying that was so critical? What are we doing there?
I remember this, and I was taught this old saying, I forgot who it was attributed to, says, all politics is local. Mm-hmm. And I didn't understand. What do you mean? Federal and this level, and at least the state level is, no, it's all local. And then you find out as you see the apparatus as things move forward. I worked for a consulting company in California before I moved to Washington, D.C. In fact, it was my father's consulting company. And my father did consulting to K through 12 school systems. Okay, so when the schools would pass a bond for several $1 million and they needed somebody to oversee and administer the adherence to the tenets of the bond, that everything was legal, they would bring my father's company in, and he'd manage everything from the architects to the general contractors to that whole process. So he pulled me into that, and boy, did I get an education. And I saw up close and personal the breakdown societally of why things cost us so much money. How the fact that school board...
You saw how the sausage was made.
Oh, Lord Jesus, did I see how the sausage was made? It ain't all meat. Trust me.
We're going to have to go to a break. When we come back, I'd like to specifically ask Lonnie. Folks, I'm BZ. Mm-hmm. Come on, you guys know that. And tonight we have Lonnie Poindexter, who's going to be here for the rest of the show, and constitutional scholar Michael Jones. I want to ask Michael Jones, when we come back, about specifically the time period in terms of impeachment. Can a sitting president be impeached when he's no longer a sitting president, when he's out of office? And then I want to ask, I have a situational incident that occurred to me with a member from Kentucky, and then I want to ask Lonnie a question about that. This guy was a Republican, and it has to do with money, and you guys I'm probably confusing the hell out of everybody. So, I tell you what, why don't I just shut up, and we'll go to a break, and I'll be right back after this. That's what we'll do.
Right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
It is he that is me, bringing perspective from across the sea. Join me, Jack Alexander, 4 days a week for the Jack Alexander Experiment podcast, as I take a unique outsider's look at the news and issues affecting life and liberty here in the USA. I'll show you what the mainstream media refuses to. Politics, border security, defense, healthcare, travel, nothing is off limits. Catch the Jack Alexander Experiment podcast each Monday to Thursday on Facebook, YouTube, and everywhere good podcasts can be found. Also, check out the website www.jackalexanderexperiment.com.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
After 6 years covering terror and corruption, the Unpleasant Blind Guy is making a change. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker and YouTube through SHR Media and on the Western Free Radio Network as I team up with Jeff Mitchell, host of the English Defense Elite radio show on blogtalkradio.com. Check show pages for airtimes. It's the Unpleasant Blind Guy.
On EDL Radio.
There's
no surrender, ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And we're back. I'm back. He's back. We are all back. Baby got back. Someone had back. I don't know who had back. In any event, I got a couple of questions. I've got questions for everybody. I'm looking at the chat room right here, and I can't refresh the chat room. So I don't know if the internet is down. I think it might. I'm trying to refresh the chat room here, but in any event, I can't get to it. It looks like Facebook is running. Looks like YouTube is running, so
Alrighty.
The show must be running. In any event, first question for Lonnie Poindexter. I wanted to ask you this. In 2017, myself and Sean and Clint went to Freedom Fest in Las Vegas in June.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a big libertarian shindig.
Yeah.
Great, lots of fun. Met a lot of people. Got to interview all sorts of folks. And in any event, we interviewed Thomas Massey, a senator from Kentucky. Mm-hmm. And a great interview. He was a ton of fun. But he kind of let the cat out of the bag. And by that I mean somehow in the process of talking to him, and this is what I'm looking for confirmation for you, Lonnie, is part of that was he said, and he glossed over this really quickly, but I caught it, and I should have asked him a follow-up question. Darn it, I didn't. But essentially what he said is, on the GOP side, if you just come in, essentially if you want a position in a certain committee, or you want to be assigned to a committee, he said, you got to pay bucks to the GOP.
Oh.
So I thought, okay, this is something huge that in retrospect, 4 years later, I thought, oh my God, I'd love to call him up and see if he would actually admit that. But I was thinking, okay, if that occurs on the GOP side, that definitely has to be occurring on the Democrat side.
You know it. So
my question is, have you heard anything about that or know anything of that? Because that's I guess mentoring your new troops means simultaneously fleecing them, it sounds like.
And there's a variety of ways that's done as it relates to campaigns and what have you. You can get out the vote and loaning your team to participate with other factions within, let's say, the GOP Central and what have you. And we have to spend like a whole nother hour. I'd have to have Rob Chittum's on to talk about that at depth because he knows.
Oh, does he know a ton more?
Yeah.
In other words, skeletons meet closet?
Yeah. It can,
and Ralph opens the door?
Because it's in his sweet spot, because that was his, he actually started out in school looking at that. I just know from practically being there in D.C. and going to the RNC headquarters and then interfacing with candidates who want to run for office, and the fact that very little money comes from GOP Central down to the local level for local candidates who are running for office.
That's what Eric Regard said in his district run. He said,
you get nothing.
They're uninterested.
Dr. Ben Carson got zero. And if you figure anybody had juice, he had juice because of his notoriety, his name, and what have you. He raised his own money, and then once he got to a certain level, then the GOP Central got involved. But up to that point, he was on his own. And he's a physician. So you figure if anybody would get some help, that's just how it works. But on the left side of the aisle functions that way as well. It's just kind of how things are in D.C. But, it takes place. Yeah, we need to have a special segment for that because we could really go deep on that. And
well,
I know you have that capability to make those things happen.
Well, since you brought that up, that might be an interesting show in the future.
Yeah, you can have Dr. Mike on, and and get Ralph on as well, and we can maybe bring some others to the table to talk about those types of things that take place.
I think Mike is eating he's got a bowl of cake and milk right now that I think I hear him consuming.
Is it pound cake?
Yeah.
My dog was concerned because I was moving in the bed, and so he hopped up to me to make sure I'm okay.
Hey, something I wanted to ask Mike, BZ, is Vice President Pence, friend or foe?
Oh.
I'm sorry, say that again? Pence? Vice President Pence?
Yeah, friend or foe?
To whom? To Trump?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, foe.
Yeah.
They're not getting along. Pence is a good guy, but he is a swamp guy.
Yeah.
And so that's what he'll protect, and that's what he did.
Yeah.
During the electoral college. Because he easily could have done something. Nixon did.
Yep.
So he was wrong saying that he didn't have any choice.
Yeah.
He lied about that because if Nixon was a Republican, if you don't know that Nixon did that exactly with the Kennedy delegates, and Nixon lost because he refused the Nixon delegates because he thought fraud was committed.
Right.
So he himself said no. That's all that Pence had to do. Say, yep, I think these are fraudulently done. We'll discount them and either hold another election or we'll take the electoral delegates that the state legislature picks.
Now, you mentioned this. You mentioned this the last time, Michael Jones. You're talking about the electors and the standard Mark I, Model I plaintive wheedling cry in D.C. and all throughout the land of the American media maggots is, well, Pence couldn't have done anything. He couldn't have done anything with the electors. He had to do exactly what it is that he did. And if I'm not mistaken, you said something similar to bullshit.
Yes.
So what could have done?
Pence would not do it because he's part of the swamp, and he will come up with a slimy answer. I didn't know what he would say, but I knew it was going to be slimy, and unfortunately, it was slimy. You don't have the power that he says. I am bound by tradition to follow what the Senate does and to
and the Constitution,
right, and protect them. I can only do something if there's the votes tied. And I'm just looking at this going, well, that's wrong. You know, 2 minute speech, and he got everything wrong in it.
Yeah.
I used to like Pence. I mean, I thought that man was solid, but you know.
I did too. Michael. And I was a couple of years ago. I had some media peers who, from Indiana, who pulled me to the side. They were in D.C. for some event, and they pulled me to the side, and I was, Vice President Pence and God has done this, and they looked at me like this, and I said, okay, if I said something, they said, Lonnie, we're from there. There's a side of him you don't know.
Oh.
2 years ago, they told me that.
Okay.
And I was like, really? I didn't want to believe it. And then sure enough, when all this jumps off, I sent a text message to, I won't say his name because, you should probably get him on the show. He'd tell you all this stuff. He said, he basically said, yeah, I remember I told you that. I know it wasn't sitting well with you. He said, but you get it now. So, yeah, obviously, I get it now.
After having been.
Yeah.
Well, it points to when you think about, I'm a big fan of POTUS. I call him the brash New Yorker. And on my show.
You're being kind.
And so folks are like, brash New Yorker?
Brash.
I said, yeah. Because I begin to learn about New Yorkers. And my good friend, Ralph Chittum's is a New Yorker, and he explained to me the New Yorker's mindset of a typical New Yorker. Ralph was born and raised. And when he explained it to me, then I had two pastors who independently came to me and said, you need to reconsider, because I was a big Ben Carson and Ted Cruz and big fan of them. And and so they came to me and said, no, you need to reconsider. Let me tell you why Ben Carson picked wisdom. And so when they explained it to me, then the light went off. Then I started thinking about my father. I started thinking about my dad and the men that I grew up around. And many of them were like brash New Yorkers. And here's what, and God rest his soul, he passed away suddenly last year. Great man of God, Pastor Henry Essex out of Ohio. He said, Lonnie, I know the type. I said, the type? He says, yeah, I work in the automotive industry. I said, yeah, you're very successful in that industry. He said, yeah. He said, I work with guys like that all the time. They're multimillionaires. They own several dealerships. They got more money than they know what to do with. He says the brash, which is where I got the term from, crash, he said, is sometimes just completely, I forget the word he used. And but you'll get my drift. I said, when he said the word, I said, okay, I get it. He said, but let me tell you something about those men. Their word is their bond, which is tied to character. Pastors told me that.
Yes.
So when they said, if they said they're going to do something, they're going to do it. If they like you, they like you. If they don't like you, they tell you in no uncertain terms.
Boy, did I find that. I went to FLETC, the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center in Glencoe, Georgia.
Okay.
Little young white kid from California, always spelled it with a K, except I wasn't spelling it with a K back then. But I discovered about Southerners that if they like you and you make friends with them, they are friends for life. They will be your best friend, and they will give you the shirt off their back.
Right.
And if you somehow piss them off, this is where I raise my hand. Here. You won't
piss
get
them off. They'll cut that shirt off you.
Yeah, exactly.
But then after you said that, Lonnie, the other thing I thought of was, okay, all the bells and klaxons were going off in the Mark I Model 1 Brainulus saying, okay, then maybe that explains why this guy, OMB, the guy with a dead orange cat on his head, came through with all of his promises. He said he was going to do X, Y, and Z. For the most part that he could, he actually did X, Y, and Z.
You know, he had a list on his desk with a legal pad, one of them yellow legal pads, number 1, number 2. Now, he did that at the beginning, and I bet he had that thing folded up in his pocket and went right down that list to the best of his ability. Now, he ran across an onslaught of opposition on both sides of the aisle. I tell folks all the time, look, I spent all those years in D.C. Let me tell you something. He's the first president that I've seen that was hated on both of the sides of the aisle equally. I don't care what the Republicans were telling you. I'm telling you what they were doing or not doing on his behalf while he was in office.
The other thing I used to say is just on a human level. The dude is, I don't know, 72, 73, something like that. He's over 70. Can you imagine, Mike, Lonnie, folks that are listening, live or in podcast, can you imagine living his life 24/7 for 5 years under constant onslaught by everyone all the time with no reprieve, no respite, 4 hours of sleep a night because that's how he rolls.
Yep.
And it never stopped. It's not stopping now. I don't know of any other human being that I can conjure that could live under that. That's the powder keg of powder kegs. How can a human being function like that? I couldn't take a day of that.
He's got a high level of energy.
None of it.
He's wired that way. I know one other man, maybe 2 other men that are wired that way at that advanced age. And one of the other men I know of is my father, who has the metabolism of somebody half his age. My dad's 89. And so folks said, could Trump want another 4 years? Yeah, he could, because he is a high energy guy. And like that 4 hours of sleep, my dad. And that's just how those guys are. That's a gift to have that. But to be able to put up with enemies on both sides, you don't know who's friend or foe.
I couldn't do it.
I know I couldn't do it.
And then with that under consideration, is it any shock that he changed staffers and various cabinet positions and other positions like you and I would change underwear?
Yes.
It's like, here's your gene pool. Let's pull someone out that sounds like they're going to support me, Jeff Sessions, and only to discover that he's one of the greatest disappointments ever in the history of AGs.
Whew, you're preaching.
It's like,
yes.
Okay, I get it. I get that.
Yeah.
But to function as a human being, oh my God. Okay, I got to move on. Hey,
Okay.
I think I have. Do I have somebody on the phone? Is there somebody on the teleola phone here calling in?
Yes, there is.
Okay. Who be it then? Please tell me it's not somebody.
My name's Brett, and I'm actually.
I'm sorry.
My name's Brett, and I'm actually calling from Australia.
Australia.
Oh, okay. Australia. Love you. How are you doing, my brother?
Not too bad, mate. Not too bad. It's 4 o'clock on Wednesday afternoon.
Okay. Is this Dingo Dundee?
Yeah. I have to go by Dingo Dundee because my other Brett Rowe account got taken down and
okay.
banned. And
So I've spoken to you before then.
Yes. I try to follow you guys as much as I can. And it works well for us because, for me, it's in the afternoon.
Well, like I say, when I talk to Jack Alexander, it's tomorrow's news today because it's tomorrow where you are right now. Hey, can you give me the correct lottery numbers? I want some winning lottery numbers. You know, so you apparently you have the Sacramento Bee right now that you could open to, like page 12 or whatever it is, and give me the winning lottery numbers because baby needs a new pair of shoes, please. If you could do that. How can I help you tonight, sir? Oh, wait, it's day for you. How can I help you today, sir?
Look, I just wanted to give a sort of a point of view from somebody outside the box of America at the moment.
Okay.
You know, just an opinion from somebody else in the world.
All right.
Now, look, I'm 55, but when I went to school and I learned history in school, which is one of the subjects, you know, we learnt about the American history. We learnt about the Founding Fathers, your Constitution, your Bill of Rights, your amendments, your history, your Civil War. And we learnt it all from books, not from the internet. And look, I never got into American politics until about 5 years ago when I decided, just for something to do, to follow the presidential election. And at that stage, I actually thought Obama was great. I didn't know anything about politics. And then slowly over the process of everything that's happened, I mean, I've become so awakened to everything that's happening. And then I do my own research, and then you start to see the rabbit hole and start to see it bigger and bigger. But Australians are really worried at the moment because America is our best mate. I mean, Australia and America have been together in military conflicts, and we've been your allies for well over 100 years. Now, we can even see that the rule of law and the Constitution has not been followed by the Democrats.
Exactly.
We can see the voter fraud that went on. We can see the voter fraud that went on. We can see the insanity of the left and the Democrats since January the 6th. And looking at, and never with mainstream media, but looking at other social media posts, because that's how we get our news. We don't get our news from mainstream media because that's just a load of garbage. And your mainstream media owns my mainstream media. So for the last two months, every single newspaper, every single TV show and news articles and radio things are all about Uncle Donald, and it's all from the left side point of view. So it's 100% biased when it comes out. And we're really upset and we're fed up with it because it's not equal or truthful publications. But what scares us the most is that the Constitution virtually at the moment, and when your Democrats are talking, every time they mention something, it's the Constitution, but they're not following it at all.
Exactly.
And the hypocrisy, I think the hypocrisy is the thing that upsets us the most because they're saying one thing and then doing another. And then when you say the same thing as them, it's, oh, no, that's racist, we're really worried in Australia. I mean, we're dealing with issues with China, and the world should be awake with what's happening with China at the moment.
It's
because
the same
China's
thing.
Invading countries with money.
It's the same thing that I said at the beginning of the show, and it's this, and I think you're making that point, is if we go down, we, the United States, who acts like the United States for freedom? Well, as we all know, nature abhors a vacuum. So if the United States falls, to fill that vacuum, to my way of thinking, will be China first, then Russia. Kind of behind a bit, but China is our primary enemy right now. I don't see any other two ways around that. But I understand and I hear your concerns. Each nation, to my way of thinking, each county, state, individual, Lonnie, me, Mike, you, I heard a great quote from my mother-in-law, who I only met for a brief time, and she died of pancreatic cancer in about a month and a half or so. One of the things she said is, everyone is put on this earth for a reason, if only to be sometimes an example of what not to do. But what we
very wise.
What we completely fail at, an abject F for failure, I call it historical Alzheimer's, is learning from the historical experiences of other people, of other countries, of other continents. 1996, Australia. We haven't learned from you yet. We're going down that same rabbit hole that you've been. And when I've spoken to Jack Alexander, one of the first things he said is that contrary to what everybody in Australia was telling you, crime skyrocketed. You know, it didn't take a 5-year-old to figure that out. So we should be learning from Australia. We should be learning, or should have been learning, from Europe in terms of what socialism does. Because the big thing about Europe is, well, they don't have to. People used to say, okay, oh God, the United States burns so much fossil fuel, and they spend so much on the military, and it's so mean, and it's so evil. Yeah, because we're spending all the money to take care of you assholes in Europe. It's the Marshall Plan for the 2000s, comma, thank you very much. So all the fuel and the money that we spend on our defense budget doesn't just stay here, it goes everywhere else.
And we get $600.
And we get $600. Oh, okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah, you're the. Why should you be the piggy bank? Why should you be the piggy bank of the world?
The American taxpayer is the piggy bank of the world. You open that door, Lonnie.
It's my job.
And it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be that way.
No.
I mean, look at all the money, and I think the key of all of this has been like the UN. Like Australia joined the UN, and we seem to, like, we have donated in total nearly over $1 trillion over the last 10 to 20 years. And we're only a population of 25 million at the moment. So, you know, we've donated all this money to third world countries which haven't improved. They've never fixed any of the problems. And yet they're dictating why is this globalist elite bunch of people dictating to Western Christian nations mainly, because we are the main targets at the moment. It's not Russia, it's not anyone else, it's countries like New Zealand, England, Canada, Australia, America. You know, the democracies, the people that love freedom of speech, freedom of expression. And the beautiful thing about freedom of expression and freedom of speech is that both sides of the aisle have the right to speak. And if you're smart, it will come into a logical debate. And unfortunately, a logical debate and a rational debate has gone out the door. You just don't get honest debate.
You mentioned something, and Lonnie mentioned something, and it made my little Mark 1 Model 1 tickler file open up, and I pulled out. Okay, there won't be solutions to problems, because if you solve any number, a litany of problems, the people that are problem solvers aren't necessary anymore. That's why, in my estimation, the poverty pimps, the race pimps still have jobs. The military pimps still have jobs. The contractor pimps still have jobs. When they get through in D.C., then they roll over to some kind of a private practice. Because if you solve a problem, that creates unemployment. And all the people that were feted initially in D.C. when Trump got there, they missed out on all their cocktail parties now, and you're taking money away from us, and that can't happen anymore. I hate your ass.
You see it at the functions there that they weren't invited to, because Trump brought in a new cadre of people, young primarily, and inexperienced, but still new people, because he wasn't a part of the clique. And Michael mentioned K Street prior. You mentioned as well. We call it the K Street Shuffle. It makes no difference who's even in office to the establishment in Washington, D.C.
Right, because presidents come and go.
Come and go, long as things don't change. That's why nothing did change. You could see it. You could see them shuffle over to K Street, and they sit over there for 4 years. And if there was a change, they'd come back and assume positions or whatever. And they would either assume positions as elected officials or as full-time employees within the government infrastructure, because good Lord knows the government pays big money now. Remember the old days, you used to be able to get you a good government job, you have great benefits, but you weren't going to get rich?
Oh,
it ain't like that now.
Oh, do you know what GS-15s make? Holy crap.
Yeah.
6 figures?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well up in the 6 figures.
It's like...
You got firemen now pulling down $200K a year.
Okay, literally, I swear to God, I'm gonna get to this. Okay. Hey, Dundee, do you want to hang on over the break? You have any other comments that you'd like to make? Because I'm gonna make about a 2-minute break here.
No, that's fine. I mean, I can hold on, or I can chat some more. It's up to you, mate. I don't really mind.
Okay, I'll let you on. We'll stay because I don't see my phone ringing for anybody else. I'm gonna go to a break, come right back, and then I want to talk about impeachment. Because I actually started looking into some of this stuff, and I'd like to have some kind of a semi-definitive answer from Professor Michael Jones. And then, Lonnie, I'd like to have you weigh in as well in terms of impeachment. I haven't gotten to a fraction of the stuff I wanted to get to tonight. Oh, my. But it's that way every show. It really is. So, okay, tell you what, we'll go to a break right after this, and then we'll come back. I'm BZ. That's Lonnie Poindexter. Michael Jones is on the phone, and I swear to God, we will be back after this.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Southern Sense is conservative talk with Annie, the radio chick you bellows as host, and C.S. Bennett co-host. Informative, fun, irreverent, and politically incorrect. You never know where they'll go, but you'll love the journey. Annie is a top conservative host on Top Talk Radio and features some of the finest guests packed with important politicians and newsmakers. Listen every Friday, 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern, noon to 3 Pacific, on the SHR Media Network. Remember, Southern Sense is common sense.
Hey, are you guys listening? This is Shannon from Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM on SHR Media. I know you've been wondering where we are and what's been going on. Well, folks, that's right, we're back. So please, join us 7 to 9 a.m. Monday through Thursday on SHR Media, on Spreaker, iHeartRadio, and Spotify, and Facebook Live at 11 a.m. on Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM at Facebook. You don't want to miss a minute. We've got lots of guests, lots of segments, and lots of interesting things. And let's face it, there's nowhere for you to go, so you might as well tune in. Again, Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM. We're back live on the air on SHR Media, 7 to 9 a.m. Monday through Thursday, audio and Facebook Live, audio and video. Yes, we are going to do video. Facebook Live, Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM. Hope to see you soon.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And we're back. We're nationwide. This is the final 27. The final 27 minutes of the show for Tuesday. Well, let me put it this way. Here in Sacramento, California, always spell it with a K, it's 9:33. On the East Coast, it's 12:33. In Bolivia, it's 17:49 and 725 seconds, 0.3, subcluster 4, paragraph 5. But that's because I could just never quite understand Bolivian time. You know, if I were to turn this back on,
what time is it?
People could probably see us. Yeah, hey, Dingo, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here, mate. Thank you.
Okay, what time is it there?
The time here at the moment is 3 minutes past 4 on Wednesday afternoon.
Okay. Alrighty. Just curious. I just was curious. So, Michael Jones, are you still there, sir?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think they're behind us, not ahead of us. I know they're under us.
I don't know. I think they're ahead of us. That's
toilets.
Oh, that's right.
Flush reverse.
That's right. And I know why that is. That's one of the few things I learned in college, okay? I also learned that I was I took a class because I wanted to be in the aero unit and fly helicopters until my position ran out. But I learned that's part of the Coriolis effect.
Uh-huh.
And the Coriolis effect is on the northern hemisphere, toilets flush to the left. In the southern hemisphere, toilets flush to the right. That's called the Coriolis effect.
So that's true. I thought that was
that really is true.
tale.
Honest to God, it really is true, and it has to do. That's an effect,
right,
in terms of physics on a helicopter, and why you have to insert pedal when you pull some collective, when you pull some pitch. In any event, boy, did I get out of where the hell I was going. And now it's Talk with Helicopters with Lonnie and Mike. Come here every Tuesday night for Helo Talk. Mike, I want to talk to you about impeachment. Is it lawful for a civilian, because that is what Donald Trump will become on January 20th, is it lawful for a civilian to be impeached? And I formulate that question under the assumption that, yes, okay, articles of impeachment have been drafted. I get that. Pence said, no, I'm not doing the 25th on Trump. Okay, I get that. And then the Senate is not coming back into session, the last I heard, Lonnie, if you've heard anything different, until the 19th. The Senate then has to hold a hearing, et cetera, and by the time that gets through, it's like they have 35 seconds to hold some kind of a hearing, which they've said, oh, we'll hold that later. I don't know, maybe sometime in March or April or June. We'll get to that. But can a non-sitting president be impeached, Michael Jones?
Yes. No. I'm going to say it this way. I will not be shocked if this person is impeached. But I do not believe that they have the authority to impeach him past the day that he's in office. Okay? The 20th is that day. And here's the thing with this. And please forgive me if I'm talking, it's trying to be, I just had 13 teeth pulled on Friday.
I heard that, yes.
Yeah, and so I'm still learning how to talk, but I also fell asleep while you guys were talking, and I dropped my drink all. I dropped it, just my hand opened, and it slid down and hit the ground, and woke me back up.
I'll tell you what, if you want me to call you back next week and we can go into this in detail, would you rather that?
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay, all right, let's do that.
This right quick. Let me finish this real quick.
Sure.
In the Constitution, there are no direct words to be able to impeach a past president.
Okay.
And the wording is sitting president, and that's what they use in the Constitution.
Right.
And he will no longer be a sitting president on the 20th of January. And so Congress will no longer have the authority to attack attack Trump because he's no longer a sitting president.
Okay.
And so that to me defines it clearly. But you will have plenty of lawyer type people out there that will slash and dash for it's what I just said and claim that I don't know what I'm talking about. Okay. Just because it doesn't say
time for Betty Bye.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I can tell. Yeah.
Oh, God, I'm so sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. Listen, I did it. I get it. You told me in advance that you had a ton of teeth pulled.
Yeah.
And then I confirmed because I thought, no, you're not going to be on tonight. But I thought I'd ask you anyway, and you said yes. So I thought, okay, tell you what, let's cut to the chase. Our broadcast day has ended for Michael Jones. I'll call you back. I wish you would get some sleep, and I really appreciate, thank you kindly for being here tonight under those heinous circumstances. Yes. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. By the way, in Broken Hill, Australia, it's 16:09. So that they're roughly 16 and a half hours ahead of us.
Okay. All righty.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Appreciate it. Take care.
That's just all my thinking. So I'm sorry. I mean, don't think I don't know, but I tried.
No, you are, if nothing else, entertaining.
You're the trooper.
Yes.
I hope your mouth gets better, mate.
Okay.
What's that?
Thank you, sir, for being here tonight. I greatly appreciate it.
Oh, yes, sir.
All right.
And it's good to hear Lonnie's voice again. I haven't talked to Lonnie since the funeral up in D.C.
Yes.
All righty. Thank you,
right,
sir.
Mates.
Take care.
See you guys. I'm going to fall asleep here.
I know. I get it.
Goodbye, everybody.
Okay. I'll call you later. All right. Wow.
I've been down that road.
What a trooper. You know, you run the ragged edge of I understand what he's doing, and you run the ragged edge of, boy, that's kind of entertaining, but that's not the way to go. No, that really isn't the way to go.
No.
Okay, so I did some research into this in terms of the impeachment, and what Michael Jones was saying was pretty much correct. So there's a case called Brandenburg in 1969, which, to defend Trump, should theoretically be cited as a reason that Trump shouldn't be impeached, insofar as his speech is constitutionally protected regarding that inciting violence. Well, I looked and found the exact series of sentences that he said that everyone attribute to inciting riots. Right. Well, in Brandenburg, the case that I looked up, the speech has to be it has to be directed towards causing immediate lawless action. And it has to be coupled with and likely to incite or produce that action. In law, with me, that would be, okay, you have to have the means, the motive, and I'm forgetting the third. Damn it, Jim. Anyway, moving right along, because I have a script I'm looking at. Anyway, the Democrats are saying that for advancing, means, motive, and opportunity. Okay. Thank you, brain. The Democrats, they're saying that for advancing a constitutional legal argument, President Trump incited an insurrection. So he was advancing his belief that what occurred to him wasn't lawful. And that's impeachable. So what I found out is, what I determined is that that's outlandish, that's brazenly stupid, it's baseless and meritless. So here's what President Trump specifically said. And Lonnie Poindexter, you tell me if this is inciting violence, because I'm sure this is what he's going to be judged upon. Mm-hmm. The quote directly is, "We're going to walk down to the Capitol. We're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen. I know that everyone here will soon be marching to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard." Other than that, folks, you show me where President Trump said anything directly involving the incitement of violence or riots. You show me where it was that he said that people need to vandalize property, create a riot, steal things from the Capitol. I don't believe it's there.
It's not there.
And so, like I said, the Senate doesn't come back until the 19th. And so I looked, okay, upon what is this predicated in the Constitution? And it's under Article 2, Section 4 of the U.S. Constitution. And it requires, like Michael Jones said, that a person must be a sitting president to be impeached, which by January 20th, Trump would not be.
Right.
So Article 2, Section 4 consists of a sentence, one sentence. That's it. The president, vice president, and all civil officers of the United States shall be removed from office on impeachment for and conviction of treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors. It says the president, meaning he's a sitting president. Mm-hmm. Vice president, a sitting vice president. So you have to look at there's the spirit of the law is what I was taught, and the intent of the law.
That's right.
So the intent of this is aimed directly at someone who is occupying a seat in the Oval Office or a seat in the Senate, for example.
Mm-hmm.
It's not directed as somebody who is gone because your problem is soon to be solved a day or less than a day after the Senate convenes. And if they can have a hearing with everyone, all the opportunities for these people to speak in less than a day, I don't think that's going to be happening.
No.
So it's not a former president. The way I read this is the text requires a current or sitting president. So, Lonnie Poindexter, any thoughts on that, sir?
Oh, it's obvious, BZ, that they would say that he was inciting a riot and suitable to be impeached if he had said that we were to gather down at the Capitol and break out our crochet kits and knitting needles and knit exact copies of the flag. They'd have said that he incited those folks to go down there with sharp objects to inflict pain and displeasure on people there at the United States Capitol. So it's subject to interpretation, and we know that it doesn't take much for them to interpret anything that he says as to being something that's less than genuine. It's this comes down to I quote my dad a lot. Anybody that knows me, I do that because he's my hero, and it just comes down to common sense or the lack thereof. And common sense is not too common anymore.
No, it's uncommon sense.
Yeah, it's, well, how do you know this? Well, I have common sense. BZ, you have common sense. Dr. Michael Jones has common sense, even though he's afflicted from the surgeries and the medication.
13 teeth and alcohol. That's a great combination.
Man, that's rough. Common sense, but there isn't common sense today. And if you push back on those without common sense, they can label you any one of 3 or 4 things, I've been called a racist. White folks say I'm racist against black people.
Hey, it's funny you should mention that.
I go like this.
I just heard Candace Owens say the exact same thing in front of some kind of a Senate hearing. I've been called a racist.
Yeah.
Hello.
Where's the common sense?
Are you blind?
I don't know. I'm encouraged by, and I've mentioned this a couple times before, but I'll post it in your social media, and so for your listeners to they can get a hold of Colonel Allen West, that his latest piece he wrote. It just really nails things down as to this ain't over, and we shouldn't run around like chickens with our heads cut off. We win in the end. We know that if you follow the good book, you know what the good book says. But we must show up for every battle, and we must be cool, calm, and collected. You win this thing. It's not the first time that evil's raised its head. And I guess the one area I was naive, I didn't think they would go to the lengths that they would go to throw an election and all these other things that they've done. But then, wait a minute. Yeah, there's no code of ethics for evil. They do what needs to be done, right? They don't go like this. Well, we can't do that one. No.
You pull out your scroll.
Yeah.
Hear ye, hear ye, hear ye. The code of ethics for evil.
Yeah.
Point 1.
Yeah. Well, we can't do that one. No,
that's even too evil for evil.
They do everything. And so that's right. They do. We have rules. They don't have rules.
No. Let me ask you this then. I mentioned 2022 when we're going to be coming back. A lot of elections coming up for the House in 2022.
Mm-hmm.
These guys seem to think that they had a mandate. Well, the Republicans won every seat they got, and the Democrats actually lost some in the House. The squeaker was the Senate, but I think that had to do with some numbnut saying something similar to, well, it was stolen, so you may as well stay home. Well, we see what that got us. Loss of the Senate.
Yes.
And no clear means to be able to say, no, that stuff's not going to happen with all the silly crap that's going to get thrown down our throats here. That saying, though, Lonnie Poindexter, would you estimate that things are going to get, I think, for 2021, things are going to get worse before they get better, because if this is the amount of crap that popped off in less than a week, then what other fanciful ideas of oppression are coming? And I think there's a ton. And I think I quantified this. 2021 will be, at least for us conservatives, that's another issue I'll go to for a second, conservatives and Republicans. This is going to be the year of retribution, revenge, and that's all you're going to see. Retribution, revenge, oppression. They want Tybalt's Merchant of Venice piece of flesh. They want your piece of flesh.
Yes,
they want my piece of flesh. This is all in terms of retribution. Well, unity apparently can go to hell.
Yeah.
So that's just wah, wah, wah. They don't mean that. So I can only surmise it's going to get worse before it gets better.
I agree. The heat cometh, as we and my cronies say. The heat's going to come. It comes with the territory. But we should be encouraged because they feel they have a mandate, and so at the federal level, I would say they probably do. And but as I stated earlier, politics is local. So if you can have a state like Texas, states like Florida, Mississippi, and others that hold their ground toward the statutes that make America great, we can push back at the local level at what they're doing at the federal level. But no, I do believe the heat's coming. I've been telling Christian folk, as I am one of them, who think that God's going to rapture us out of here before things go to hell in a handbasket. Y'all ain't read the whole Bible. No, we're going to catch some heat. But also, and getting spiritual again, I believe that the Word of God, at least my perspective, and I don't see as a book of pessimism, I see as a book of victory, and that Christ returns to a bride without spot or blemish, and which is a church, and the church got some blemishes. The reason why we're in this mess to begin with is because rank and file, common sense people aren't standing up and fighting back. Just like you said, they're not voting. They didn't vote in Georgia. That's the craziest thing in the world to do.
All it takes for evil to flourish is for good men to do nothing.
There it is.
Or maybe I've corrupted that phrase, but similar to that.
Close enough. That's what it is. And so when you in my own life, I've been in situations, and maybe other shows I can get more candid about some of the stuff I've had to deal with where God has showed me. If you just take a stand, watch me work. If American people just take a stand, God will move. Well, honey, God didn't move this time when we stood up. I said, well, you don't know it's over yet. Heat's coming, but that's all part of the process. Heat comes.
Politics is a blood sport.
Yes. Always has been.
Well,
Freedom.
It comes down to faith and fear.
Yes.
It's faith and fear. That's the two things that we're dealing with.
Great point.
You've got to have faith because everybody, it's good versus evil. It really is. It's not about politics because it's about ethics, morals, standards.
Yes. On point. That's exactly what it's about.
Being destroyed over the years.
Yeah.
And especially, very good, strong Christian values. And what's happening, and I mean, just back to your impeachment thing, the way I see it as an Australian, and I'm sure there's other people around the world that see it, is that they're trying to impeach Uncle Donald. They're trying to impeach him with a few words. And let's go back last year and look at your 6-odd months of rioting and burning and death, destruction of property, destruction of lives. But yet look at every one of the Democratic Congress members that came out, like Maxine Waters and Pelosi and Cuomo and all the rest, saying, oh, no, this isn't violent. Oh, these are people just reacting. Because they were reacting against Trump. So anybody that reacts against Uncle Donald, it's legitimate. It's legal, That anybody that wants to have a go at us, well, that's just wrong. You're just racist.
It's the ultimate in gaslighting.
Again. That's double standard.
It's gaslighting. Don't you believe your lying eyes? Mm-hmm. Now, I got somebody else on the phone that I'm going to bring in just a second. But what is this? This is about a minute and a half from a movie. This is a famous scene from Christopher Walken about the lion. And I've played this before, but I've not yet thought that it can easily be applied to our situation, and that goes to what you were saying, Lonnie. Mm-hmm. Don't give up. 2022, some things are occurring in the future, and this just really resonated with me, and it made me want to play this tonight.
This lion, he's the king of the jungle. Huge mane out there. He's laying down under a tree in the middle of Africa. He's so big. He's so hot. He doesn't want to move. Now, the little lion comes. They start messing with him. Biting his tail, biting his ears. He doesn't do anything. The lioness, she starts messing with him. Coming on, making trouble. Still, nothing. Now, the other animals, they notice this. And they start to move in. The jackals, hyenas, they're barking at him, laughing at him. They nip his toes and eat the food that's in his domain. They do this, and they get closer and closer and bolder, till one day, that lion gets up and tears the shit out of everybody. Runs like the wind. Eats everything in his path. Because every once in a while, the lion has to show the jackals who he is.
And that's, I think, applicable now.
Powerful.
We've taken a lot over the past number of years. A lot of crazy things are going to happen in the future. But especially with, like I said, I didn't get to a fraction of the stuff I could have tonight. Oh, my God.
Next week.
Yeah, thank God there's Thursday night. Oh, let me tell you, since I'm thinking about this, folks. This Thursday night, I'm going to be speaking to Gary Bush, who is an individual that has gone through his own critical incident. I did in the 70s. Mm-hmm. And he's going to be talking on Thursday night about law enforcement suicide. He's been on both sides of the aisle, so to speak. And so we're going to be talking to him about that on Thursday. So programming note for everybody on Thursday. And since I'm thinking about programming notes, I don't know how long you're going to be in town, but Lonnie Poindexter, boy, would I love to have you back.
Brother, I had a ball here this evening. Anytime you want me back, I'm there, man.
Okay. Now, I gotta wrap this up in about 2 minutes, so I think I know who's on the other phone. Go ahead, young man who just called in.
Yes, sir. How are you doing? Happy New Year to everybody.
So it's the Alaskan. How are you doing, Alaskan?
I'm doing pretty good. And did anybody hear 2021 say, "Hold my beer" as he came across the threshold?
Yeah, that's pretty much what 2021 may be doing, especially for people who have, flat heads and they're shorter than you are. Then you can readily place your beer on top of their head, and I guess maybe that's not hold my beer. Maybe that's let me place my beer on top of your flat forehead, like a deck of an aircraft carrier. But that's a story for another time.
Yeah.
So, any insight, sir?
Anyway, yeah, I think that we can put fear of God into both parties if the 75 million or whatever people who supported Trump go down to their local voter registrar and change their registration party they're in and go independent until such times as we may get a third party or one of the parties wakes up.
Well, we know that to coin a word from our good, like the people in Congress say, our good friends across the aisle, our good friends. That's not going to happen until we make that happen, because as Lonnie indicated earlier, one of the biggest things that we took from the Trump presidency is we knew it was bad. We didn't know how bad, and we didn't know exactly where it was that we needed to look, because like a cat in a sandbox, for years, both sides have been covering up the little piles, and they're not visible. But we know they're there.
We know they're there, yeah.
And then this storm comes along, this orange storm, and blows all the sand away. And look what we can see. Now we know.
Yep.
So that's something that's a story for another day. So, Alaskan, thank you very much for being here. I'm going to have to move along. Thursday night, by the way, I've got Gary Bush coming in. He's going to be talking about law enforcement suicides. I may as well ask you right now, Lonnie, you got an hour or two next week?
Sure.
Okay. What are you doing Thursday?
I'm right here.
Okay. All righty. So, anyway, we got to wrap up the show. Thank you for being here for the entire 2 hours, Lonnie Poindexter. You can't see it, but I have 2 search engines open with about 40 tabs each at the top. Those were all the things I wanted to talk about tonight, and I didn't even get to one. Well, I did. I got to one audio cut tonight with Christopher Walken. So, that having been said, I will be here Thursday night. All is not lost. Keep a positive mental attitude. Lots can be done. Yes, some certain things are going to occur, but if we unify and push back, because if there's one thing the Democrats can do is consolidate power like nobody else and circle the wagons, all is not lost. So please come back this coming Thursday night, same bat time, same bat channel, 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern. And then this Thursday, Gary Bush. Next Thursday, I've got Lonnie Poindexter back. And again, thanks for all the people who called in. Thanks to Michael Jones, who was very cogent at the beginning and became somewhat entertaining at the very end. Yes. And to that I say,
Monsieur has been locked.
So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thanks for listening to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, live and direct right here on the SHR Media Network. If you want to contact me, well, you can still contact me on Twitter. That's where I'm most active. I'm at BZEP, at BZEP. I was on Parler. Not no mo. Anyway, promotional consideration is by the Lockheed Martin Skunk Works, and also by the Boeing Company. If it ain't Boeing, then I ain't going. And also by Pratt & Whitney Engines Thrust. You can trust. Tiaras, as per normal, are by My Little Pony tonight. Thanks to my personal KC-135 Kettle One refueling team, with whom I will be consorting in less than an hour. You can take that to the bank, guaranteed. And if you want a photo, I'll bring it. And thanks to Michael Jones for being here tonight. Thanks to the gracious Lonnie Poindexter for being here tonight. Thanks to everybody for listening live. Thanks to everybody for listening in chat, for listening in podcast. I appreciate everybody being here, because 2 hours late at night, that's a big chunk of change out of your day. So thanks, everybody. God bless. Take care. Be safe.
Everybody quiet down now and get some sleep.
Night, everybody.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Ben.
Good night, everyone. Good night, Mama.
Good night, Daddy.
Good night, children.
Good night, Daddy. Good night, Elizabeth.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Jim Bob. Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, Jim Bob.
What's going on? I was asleep. What's everybody doing?
Good night,
Jim Bob.
Good night, and good luck.